Thank you for tuning in once again to Chat with Disa, and today I'm back with another video about ETFs. So there's a lot to understand about ETFs, and I know it can be overwhelming, but trust me, investment can be simplified, and that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to simplify it because in order for me to understand something, it has to be simple. So now I am sharing my understanding with you, right? So there are 76 ETFs at the moment. 76, and you're probably thinking, now should I go and buy each and every ETF in order for me to see growth in either my investments or my tax-free savings account that I have that might have ETFs in it? No, you don't have to go buy all 76, but it's important for you to know what they are, what they have inside of them, and whether it's a good idea for you to invest in that particular one or not. Well, most of them are a good idea to invest in, but you don't want there to be duplications because that can happen. Some ETFs literally have the same thing inside, but with a slight difference. So anyway, today we're simplifying ETF providers. So I'm sure when you saw the ETFs, you're like, okay, there's this and there's that and there's this. Well, if you've been doing the homework that I've been giving you, I have been leaving links in the description box and encouraging you to check out those links and use the resources that you find on there. So if you have been checking out, for example, Easy Equities and went on their platform and you're like, okay, this has said there are ETFs. Now I'm here and I'm like, what now? So now I'm going to break down who are the ETF providers, right? So the platform like Easy Equities, there are other investment platforms that would have various ETFs that are provided by different providers. So who are the providers? So on the Easy Equities platform, for example, there are 8 providers, unless there are any new ones that get added after this video. But here they are: One Invest, and the logo looks like this; ABSA, Ashburton or Ashburton, however you want to pronounce it; Cloud Atlas, Core Shares, RMB, which is Rand Merchant Bank, Satrix, Signia. Now that we've covered the providers, and now that you're familiar with the logo, you must remember that that is not an ETF that's like duplicated. So you don't say, oh, I bought a Signia ETF, oh, I bought a Satrix ETF, oh, I bought a One Invest ETF. Which One Invest ETF did you buy? One Invest, Satrix, Signia, all of those are ETF providers. Think of it in the sense of supermarkets, right? There are various supermarkets. We've got ShopRite, we've got Woolworths, we've got Pick n Pay, we've got Macro, we've got Food Lovers Market. All of them are selling something that is common, right? But each one of them are somewhat different. So there's something that you buy from ShopRite, there's something that you buy from Woolworths, there's something that you might buy from Macro, but maybe the other supermarkets also have them. So think of the different ETF providers like supermarkets, right? So each of them might have something similar, might, not all, right, that they're selling, but you might buy maybe one thing from this one, another thing from this one, and another thing from this one instead, okay? But you'll find that there's that supermarket where when you walk in there, you get other things that you might not necessarily find in your everyday supermarket. Like when you go to Macro, you get hardware stuff, a huge variety of hardware stuff, which you wouldn't find when you go to Woolworths, right? Because Woolworths doesn't have those things, right? That's just an example for you to understand how the different ETF providers differ, in the sense that they have products that might be similar, but you'll find that there's a slight difference. So you're like, okay, mealy meal from Woolworths, mealy meal from Pick n Pay, I'll still be able to cook, but there's that slight difference when I buy it here or here or here or there, right? It can be a price difference, it can be a performance difference. Maybe you're stronger when you eat the Millie Meal from there, and then you're not as strong when you eat. But anyway, in investment terms, the difference is mainly about performance, and it's about the expense. That's the biggest difference that I've seen. And with some of the ETF providers, you'll find that one has property, the other one does not. You'll find that one has commodities and another does not. So now that you've grasped what ETF providers are, who they are, now we can look at, okay, how do we then compare? How do we compare an ETF top 40 that might be provided by One Invest and one that might be provided by Satrix? What makes those two different? But now you understand that, Core Shares or One Invest and Satrix, those are providers, but there might be some differences in the things that they are providing, even though they might have the same name. For example, another one that might have the same name is the S&P 500. That's an ETF, right? But it's not only provided by Satrix, it's not only provided by Core Shares, it's not only provided by One Invest. So you're like, okay, who do I buy it from? And this is what I love about the Easy Equities platform. They've made it simpler for us. You can compare. They literally have a whole website that is dedicated to ETFs that can help you compare between providers. And we're gonna go through it together so that you do not feel anxious and overwhelmed, right? All right, so we're gonna move on to another screen where you'll only hear my voice, and we're going to play around with comparing different ETFs so that we see, okay, which one do I buy? Remember guys, all the resources that you need are on their site. It's all a matter of you taking the time and reading, right? And if you need to do any extra research to understand something, then you do that research, right? So we can take this journey together. However, you can go ahead of me and read up using the resources that I've provided. ETFSA, which is another company that has great information on ETFs. I've also linked their website in the description box, so feel free to click and check it out. Equities website that is dedicated to educating you more about ETFs to really make your investment journey much simpler, to help you understand ETFs. So we're going to be exploring the amazing feature where you can compare ETFs. Remember, there are different providers, right? So what we're trying to do is compare that if I buy it from this provider or if I buy it from that provider, what's the difference? So welcome to our Easy ETFs compare page, where you can compare up to 3 ETFs available on our site and make your choice #easier, right? And it is easier when you are able to compare these providers and the ETFs that they offer. So let's have a look at the One Invest Top 40 ETF. Let's compare it to the Ashburton Top 40 ETF. Remember, it's the top 40, but we have it with One Invest, we have it with Ashburton, and let's look for another one. Let's look for the Satrix Top 40 ETF. Be careful to select the correct product. So the Satrix Top 40, Ashburton Top 40, and One Invest Top 40. All right. So now let's see what makes these different. That's essentially provided on this site is collected from the fact sheet of the actual fund. So each and every fund that you are invested in will have a fact sheet, and what's lovely is that it's linked in the summary. So if you want to take the time and have a look at the fact sheet, which might look intimidating because of the graphs and numbers, but if you take your time to read it and digest it, you'll find that there's a lot of useful and important information about the performance of the fund that will be helpful in helping you choose which fund to be invested in. So the fact sheet for One Invest, for Ashburton, and for Satrix, or for any ETF for that matter, will be provided
and linked when you are comparing ETFs or reading up about them. Also, if you're feeling like, well, I don't really know what these headings mean, you can just hover over one and it will tell you what the definition is. They all seem to have a similar price, but the Satrix one is cheaper, right? And when we look at the fund size, and once again, you can hover over the heading to see what the definition is. The Satrix one is much bigger in terms of the fund size, and the TER is essentially how much it will cost you to be invested in this fund per annum, right? So this is the total expense ratio, TER, total expense ratio, which measures the cost associated with managing and operating an investment fund. These costs consist primarily of management fees and additional expenses such as trading fees, legal fees, auditor fees, and other operational expenses, right? So which one is cheaper when it comes to the expense of it per annum? And there we go, the Satrix one is cheaper. Using our basic understanding of numbers, let's look at the performance of the top 40 ETF from One Invest, Ashburton, and Satrix, right? So this information was last updated on the 4th of September 2020. So please click the link in the description box and have a look at the updated information. Okay, so we can have a look at the performance in the past week, the past month, the past 3 months, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, and year to date, right? So if we are a little about numbers or want to look at numbers and a graph, you can look at numbers and the graph. The graph will show you, well, if it's going up, then it was great. If it went down, then oops, right? So if we look at the performance of these ETFs, and also considering what we discussed above, which was the total expense ratio of the ETF. Remember, this is how much it will cost you to be invested in this fund per annum. I personally would go with the Satrix Top 40 because of the reason of how much it will cost me to be invested in it per annum. 0.10%, right? This is really low. This is still low, the cost from Ashburton. However, the one from One Invest is much higher compared to these two. And when we look at the performance, there isn't that great of a difference between the Ashburton one and the Satrix one, but there are slight differences when you look at the One Invest one, right? Over a period of time, the periods of time that are provided here, right? Looking at the numbers. Obviously, if it's higher, it's good. If it's lower, it's not. So I personally, if I had to choose between these top 40s, based on this information, I would look for performance. I would look at how much it will cost me in order to stay invested in this fund. And then from there, choose which one I want to buy. I didn't make this comparison when I bought the top 40. I just made a decision randomly, which is the bad way of investing. I didn't know all this information, but now that I know it, I'm telling you how you can compare and decide and make a decision that, okay, do I buy it from ShopRite? Do I buy it from Woolworths? Do I buy it from Pick n Pay? Do I buy it from Boxer Superstore? Do I buy it from what? Remember that comparison that I made about supermarkets, right? Being the places where you can buy this particular thing. Each one of them has it. So who do I buy it from? And I am choosing to buy it from Satrix. You can make your own financial investment decision choice. I'm not a financial advisor, and use the resources available to you to come to that conclusion. All right.
So now that you have a better understanding once again about ETFs, I would like to encourage you to start investing. Put some ETFs inside your tax-free investment account with Easy Equities or any other services provider that you might have your tax-free savings account with. Hopefully they have that option where you can choose for yourself. Hopefully that option is there. Or if there is a financial advisor that's choosing for you, I just hope they're making the best choice for you, the best decision for you. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, like the video, share it with your friends and family and people that are in your circle, and help to educate them as well about investing their money for their future, and leave a comment. I appreciate your support and I'll see you on the next one. Nakensa.